Hello, friends. So, this is chapter 5 Experience and the Ethics of Theory and part 2. So, let's start. Epistemological terrain of experience. As discussed in the earlier chapters, defining experience is not an easy task. This is because there are several meanings that are associated with the phenomena of experience. Some leading thinkers have sought to assign different meaning to experience. For example, John Dewey define experience as the principal medium and means whereby the world is encountered, enjoyed, appraised, and transformed into human habitation. Experience, Dewey further explained, must be treated as a way of conceiving what our contact with the world must be if experience has to serve as incorrigible foundation of knowledge. For Dewey, experience is not, not just content, it in fact include context as well the as well and the many dimension of meaning, such as the political, moral, religious, and aesthetic, in which the content figures. For Price, on the other hand, experience has an element of shock and surprise. Those who are the recipient of these shocks and surprise tend to become more careful so that unpleasant experience does not get repeated in the future. It is in this sense as Price suggests that experience experience is our teacher. The role of experience, according to Price, is to participate and filter up the false idea, largely in the form of surprise, that occur in the course of experimentation. For Levinas, meanwhile, the experience of the other to be close is shattering. Let me explain this very pertinent observation made by Levinas by citing some illustration that are unfortunately available in my close vicinity. The experience appeared to be shocking in the context where one does not expect offensive treatment or a hostile attitude from one's very close friends. The shock produces a much harsher moral impact when such an attitude assaulting one's dignity comes from a friend who never try of claiming authorship of writing about Dalit experience. For example, there are many in the teaching profession also deliver this shock. The tormenting self can be kept under through deploying a fuse conductor for moral monitoring, which keeps the overflow of emotion under control. Whenever emotions override reason, it leads to volcanic overflow that produces a shattering experience for a person who does not anticipate this experience. One would not be shocked if the right wing ideologue attempt to humiliate a Dalit person. This is because such an ideologue is expected to humiliate a victim, either a Dalit or a minority group person. But a Dalit would certainly feel deeply shocked when an ideologue having left-leaning and normative commitment to the issue of egalitarianism and human dignity seeks to discriminate and humiliate a Dalit on unreasonable grounds. Such an attitude also demands an explanation on moral grounds. The explanation of experience, when thought of in terms of the moral framework, then assumes a particular ordering of value. These order include those who occasion our admiration, those who do not lead a Janus face life, and those who do not allow prejudice to overwhelm good passion. That is the truth of a commitment to the dignity of an individual is as important as the discovery of the truth of knowledge. When prejudice based on one-dimensional or close ideology motivate the cadre intellectual to inflict insult and create a painful experience for others, It militated against the revolutionary need to produce collective experience as suggested by one of the more sensitive subaltern thinkers, James Scott. He said that experience is a middle term between social being and social consciousness. Experience give coloration to culture, values. In this sense, everything become a class experience. It is by a mode of collective experience that the mode of production exert a determining pressure on the other activities. He further says that to omit the experience of a human agent from the class relation is to have a theory swallow its tail. Although experience become demonstrative and expressive at the local level, yet this local expression is the condensation of the much larger universe, which is phenomenologically reduced to the local level. As we shall see in the following section, the experience of caste discrimination in India in a different social context in Britain gets reproduced at a local level. What is local is elevated to the transnational or universal. And yet, this local, which is basically understood as the field of emotion, creates difficulties for doing theory, according to some. Let us look at some of the scholars who tend to argue that the attempt to privilege experience over theory is not without problems. For example, Gurjit Mahajan, while endorsing experience as the possible epistemological source of doing theory, also assert us against an element of essentialism that is associated with experience. She seems to be suggesting that a victim may treat experience more as a regular source of emotional and material patronage rather than as an opportunity for intensifying it experience at a theoretical level. Therefore, she rightly suggests that while dealing with experience, one need not focus on the content of experience but only on the structure of experience. She further argues that in comparison to the content of experience, the structure of experience is more important for the reason that the latter is more stable while the former is fluctuating. So, what are we theorizing? Content or structure? According to her, since the content is inherently fluctuating, it can promote a tendency whereby experience can be individualized for a narrow purposes and not for its theoretical significance. Thus, individualizing experience does lead to distinctiveness and hence can pose difficulties for its theorization. Openness is a strength of experience and hence it is unavailable for producing absolute knowledge and ultimately theory. This formulation poses a challenge to the position which suggests for doing informed and sound theory, one requires experience. Since experience is subjective and forms part of fluctuating content, it poses a problem for doing theory. How does one face this challenge? Is it possible to accommodate experience as an initial condition for theorization? There are thinkers who have suggested certain important steps in this regard. The first step that one need to take for making experience available for theorization is deploying a method that can forge unity in experience through concept and categories. Foremost among those who suggest the unified sense of experience is Francis Bacon, who says that everyday experience stand on loose fagots with no internal or unifying order, and hence no certainty, and is itself an inaugurating movement of a broader doubt in which sensory impression are suspect. unless governed by strict regulatory method. Thus, Bacon does rule out the role of experience in the production of knowledge and assign primacy to method. In order to further emphasize the importance of method, he says that experience as chance is based on disorder. It is unreliable and subject to the vagaries of ungoverned perception. It is in contrast with the continuous and repeatable chain of axioms leading to well-regulated experiment. Bacon thus suggests that experience be subjected to experiments. The founding movement of philosophical modernity does not lie in experience, but in method and experiment. Bacon suggests a particular sequencing, putting method before experience. Experience suggests movement in which the subject and object are united. Reflexive consciousness of one's own experience create a separation between the object and the subject and unites one with experience at a higher level of theoretical sophistication. Revisiting one's own experience through theory, which help one avoid an undesirable danger. Experience left to itself remain mired in confusion, compounded by emotions expressed through crying, screaming, and even violence. Keeping in mind this possible danger that is involved in a raw experience, Scholar therefore suggests that one require a faculty of reason before one acquire experience. That is to say, for intensification of experience, only the possession of experience is not enough. It is only through clear experience that we can then produce clear concept. For getting a clear view of experience, one needs to deploy reason. Reflection on experience, according to this view, one does not have to be knowing subjects. It is not for such a person to hold an analytical power to establish a casual relationship with the help of available insight. One might have no difficulty in accepting this line of argument, but in making theory, it is necessary to reflect and not merely react to experience. The recipient of experience carry a special responsibility to reflect on experience for larger theorization. What are the apt forms of reflection of experience? Can autobiographies be an adequate format to achieve this perfect reflection? Autobiographies might target a few persons and produce a moving description of a particular experience. But theories do not target individual and seek to focus on the structure that produce this moving account of experience. Theorizing experience in terms of its structural essence rather than its varying content forms the basic object of any theory. Theory thus targets social relations and tendencies that operate through patterns and structure that inhabit relation and tendencies. Thus, there can be a theory of individualism and not of an individual. Theories target the structure of thinking and make a claim for para- paradigmatic replacement of the old ones. Sandra Harding, another leading scholar, mounts her objection to experience on the ground that it can lead to debilitating relativism. According to G.C. Pandey, the very word experience is objectionable. For him, this word is questionable because all experience appear to relative to particular subject and object. It is always subjective and cannot provide raw material for doing theory. Finally, someone may argue that experience can lead to education through autobiography or through policy regime. It could be called the politics of experience in the sense that people develop vested interest in using their experience for personal gains, or they may use somebody else's experience for their personal interest. Some of the non-governmental organizations are apt example of this act of refining experience in this narrow context. Experience get treated as a fixed asset. Keeping in view this objection, can we still argue for experience as the starting point for doing theory? What are the possible grounds on which the idea of experience could be defended? Sarukai, in his contribution to this volume, chapter 3, has already provided a very convincing ground for engaging with experience in theory. Let me add some more points. Thank you. We will cover in next part. Until then, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.